Welcome to the Extremely Live podcast. This is another Pleb Story where I talk to just regular people who found Bitcoin to kind of understand that whole process. I'm interested in kind of maybe pulling lessons from that. But today I'm here with another No Agenda listener and podcaster in their own right, Sir Spencer of the Bowl After Bowl podcast. Welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing it. I'm excited. You're I see you all over No Agenda Social, actually.
Yeah.
You're a knight, yes?
Indeed, yes.
Very cool.
Yeah, I've been a knight since 2017. I was one of the 20,000 knights that got knighted on the 10th anniversary show. So.
Nice. Yeah, I'm working my way there.
Very nice.
Yeah, I just started donating after being a douche for a very long time. I was in my donation. I said I've been there since episode 1, and I could tell it crushed Adam and John a little bit.
Ah!
There's still losers out there.
That's wild,
who need to donate.
man.
I know.
That's a long time to ride, dude.
I know. I feel terrible. But let's talk about you. This is I love No Agenda, but this is about you, brother.
All right.
So where are you from originally? I usually start there.
I grew up here in the Kansas City area.
Nice.
So I've lived in Missouri my whole life, one place or another. But
Cool.
I grew up just north of the city, on like the southern edge of nowhere. It's like where nowhere starts, but it's not quite in the middle of nowhere, you know?
Right.
Went to school at Mizzou and dropped out in 2011.
Gotcha.
I was kind of like a degree hopper, you know?
Yeah.
I went there for journalism because you don't know what to do. Yeah.
Right.
You go to college because you get like decent test scores and grades your whole life, and people are like, you have to go to college. It's like the only way to not be a dumb shit. And you're like, okay, I guess, all right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to do. And then they'll, you're like, what should I do? And everybody in your life, from your parents to your counselor, is like, well, you can be whatever you want to be, you know? And so it's like, well, that really narrows it down. I did journalism in high school because my high school had a journalism program.
Oh, cool.
I was in that basically because in journalism, you could get your friends out of class at any time for an interview, you know?
All right.
Or if you were with like the broadcast networks or the yearbook or anybody like that, you could hop in your car, go into town and sell ads, you know, for the paper or for the network or whatever. So
wow.
It was like there was a lot of cool perks, and a lot of trust was put into the students in the journalism program, you know. So that's where I started out and thrived in high school, and we had like a 5-minute daily news segment for like the school TV news, you know. So I was anchor on that for a while. And I just was like, well, I've been doing that, might as well do that in college, you know.
Yeah.
So I went. Mizzou has like the flagship journalism program over there. They're like the first J school ever.
Oh, wow.
So they're very proud of it. So I tried that out, and everybody was like all the professors at Mizzou my first year were like, oh yeah, journalism, it's like dying. Welcome. have a great time. There's no jobs when you get out. We were like, oh, that sucks.
Yeah, really.
So I changed majors. I went to psychology because I thought, well, that's interesting, and like I can take classes about drugs, which is cool. And then I kind of was like, psych majors are kind of in it to find out what's wrong with them, I think.
Yeah.
Or that was like the sense I got.
That's so funny. My craziest roommate in college was a psych major.
Yeah, there was a lot of students I felt that were just kind of like trying to get their own inside track or something, you know, like self-diagnose through a major. I was like, yeah, maybe not. So then I switched majors to something called peace studies.
Oh, wow.
Which is technically an interdisciplinary degree, but like the specialty is peace studies.
Wow, interesting.
And I was enrolled officially as a peace studies major for like a semester. And I kind of like reevaluated my life and my choices, and I was like, I was paying for it all myself on loans.
I was gonna say, that's like That sounds
Like
like a major where you realize what you're paying for.
my parents took out parent loans on the condition that I would pay them back too.
Mm,
So like it was all I was on the hook for every dollar,
yeah,
and I got over 50 grand in debt racked up, and I was
yeah.
like, you don't need a degree to be a fucking hippie, right? So I ended up dropping out of Mizzou and just working on paying all that back and digging out of debt.
Yeah,
Um,
that's the worst, man.
yeah,
It's God. I paid for my own school as well, and yeah, that can be crushing. Like,
yeah, I threw a lot of money in it with like absolutely nothing to show for it, which I don't
I'm
know.
sure there's things you pulled that influenced you.
There's a nice network that I made and
Yeah,
connections and I met my wife Lori in there
there you
at
go.
Mizzou as well. So like it wasn't all a waste
Right.
completely, but like as far as the institution itself, like none of the cool things that happened to me in a lecture, in a
Yeah,
classroom
totally.
setting.
Yeah, 100%. How long were
So
you there?
uh s- I did 2.5 years, I guess. So I did
Gotcha.
like 5 semesters.
Gotcha.
And I pretty
That's
much
that's a big
the
decision. Was it like were you worried about it when you decided to drop out? Or
no,
no, you were
not
just
really. I just
fuck
was
it.
like, I've like when I graduated high school, I already was sort of uncertain of like what I was
Mhm.
gonna do or what my future was gonna be. I was
Yeah,
just kind of taking the path of least resistance in a lot of ways, really.
totally.
And so when I decided to drop out, basically I was like, well, this is gonna be not really a dramatic change from what I'm already doing, except it's gonna be way less expensive. Like I'm gonna just start paying back these loans and like get out of debt.
Yeah.
Which that's another thing that kids worry about and stay in school longer is because like all of the payments are deferred while you're in school. So
Right.
they're like, "Oh, I don't want to make payments. So I'm gonna stay in," and then that's how that hole gets dug. And for
Yeah.
me, I was like, I could just cut my losses now, save myself like an extra 30K or something,
Mm.
and just say, "Nah, like let's just start paying it off. Like let's just wave the white flag. I'm not gonna there's no degree that's going to get me like some kind of career path
Right.
from where I'm bouncing around. Journalism was probably the best bet, and
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to work in the journalism
Oh my
field.
God.
Like
Believe me, you wouldn't. I mean, I'm in New York City, which is like media central, and
sure,
I work at a big media company. I don't want to say the name because they'd probably hate me if they knew who I really was, and that would be the end of my job.
yeah,
And I suspect something similar would be your fate. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying?
Well, they gave us at least the courtesy of like putting us in those like soft jobs as we
Mm,
went through the program. So like they tout it as the Missouri method there, but I'm sure there's like it's just like work experience while you're in college.
yeah.
Like there's a student newspaper, and then they also staff the local paper, the Missourian. So, and then there's like TV broadcast programs as well, and
Yeah.
different things where while you're working on your major, you're also working in an actual job to get a taste for it and to get experience on your resume. And the stuff, the what little I dabbled in, I hated a lot. And then everybody who was like grades ahead of me, they were just bitching about the courses and like how much they sucked and the personality clashes and everything. And I was like, dude, I really don't even want to be a part of this. Like, it's not gonna go well for me. I'm just gonna change majors.
Yeah. I went for the completely generic mass communication. Similarly to you, I was kind of just not quite sure what I wanted to do. I mean, my parents were weird. They didn't push me to go to college. I was like homeschooled by religious weirdos.
Nice.
So it was like,
I did 5 years at homeschool.
okay, nice, yeah. So looking back now, I'm like I'm appreciative of it just for the separation from the programming
Definitely.
that I
Yeah.
received, which I like.
Like
But
I missed third through eighth grade, which is
oh
probably
wow,
like the
yeah,
heaviest of the programming and the
Totally.
most tumultuous
Yeah.
socially, you know. So
The
I
like
like dodged.
empire programming.
Yeah, I dodged a lot of bullets. I didn't get the dare talk. I didn't get the sex video, whatever everybody sees. Like,
Right.
I didn't get everyone going through puberty at the same time. I dodged a lot of bullets. And by the way, we've met a lot of podcast buddies on the No Agenda stream
Yeah.
who are the same way. They're like homeschooled at least some of the years, and
I I think that kind of I that's the one thing I've been kind of noticing as a theme uh doing these interviews is that people have to kind of have a starting point that kind of removes them from the narrative programming of just being a regular person. There's like a little bit extra spice to them, something
yeah,
like that, like a little bit of homeschooling or just some weird tweak that kind of shifts their consciousness enough that they don't look at the TV as the arbiter of truth. You know what I'm saying?
it's honestly like it's a testament to how well they do program all of us, man. It's
Totally.
like, okay, if you go to every year of public schooling and then you just go to the pipeline like you're locked in.
Totally.
Nothing you can do about it.
No.
It's wild, man.
Yeah. It's
Like very
insane.
few escape.
Yeah. I'm trying to think like I I like you're saying, like I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I had my aunt gave us a video camera when I was a little kid for Christmas. I started making videos. I really like making
Nice.
videos. So I applied to one school and for editing, basically. It was mass communication, but I was like, well, I'll learn how to be an editor.
Sure.
And same thing. Had no idea what else I was gonna do. Didn't particularly like love it, but whatever.
Yeah.
And that's what I am now, an editor.
There you
So
go.
yeah, it is what it is, I guess. Like, yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, who are these people that like have this super solidified idea of what they want to do early on, and like,
I don't know, man. I think it used to be like way more family businesses, you know?
yeah,
It used to be just like handed down or like, you're like all of the tailors are tailors,
yeah,
like all of the cobblers and shoemakers are those people, like
yeah,
last names used to reflect family trades and stuff.
totally. I was always
And
jealous of the kids who had like dads who had like businesses. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, what an
same.
awesome like
Yeah,
in.
you don't gotta worry or wonder like what am I gonna do? What do I gotta be? Like
Yeah,
carve your own just like carve your own career path out of like some dense jungle.
yeah.
Like you just unknown. Yeah, that's how I always felt. My dad was in the printing industry for
Oh,
since before I
cool.
was born, and he always said, "Never go into the printing industry." So
Yeah.
it's like that's where I had to start. Was just like, okay, well, I
Don't
know I'm
do
gonna,
what I
I
did.
guess not one thing, but any other thing.
Yeah. God,
I don't
that's
know,
funny.
but
That's
yeah,
great.
for jobs, I've always been like a just a wanderer, like
Mm-hmm.
a vagabond. Not really. I never really had a high tolerance for like just like disrespect or like typical middle management like a lot of jobs, especially when you're young and you're starting out, the middle management wants to just direct you to do some things just because they can do that,
Right.
or like they're in a position that they feel like either threatened or pissed off or whatever, and so then
Mm.
they're gonna just make shit roll downhill on you. I never had a taste for that even when I was like 16. I walked out of a job at a grocery store. It was like some kids were dipshitting around on the forklift in the back, and then they
Mm-hmm.
ended up, I don't know, they ended up like going into the walk-in fridge and like throwing gallons of milk at each other and all this bullshit, right? Like they just created this big mess and all this damage and shit. And so like everybody got punished for what these three dipshits did, you
Oh
know?
man.
So like everybody that was on that shift and like pretty much everybody in the department, like all the bag boys. There was like, we're not gonna let you go to the break room on your break. We're not gonna
Oh
let you have a
jeez.
locker in the back. All of this shit. And I was like, it's like, look, I didn't do anything. I didn't
Yeah.
participate in this absolute stupidity, you know? Like there wasn't I wasn't one of those guys. So
Damn.
like, you're really gonna tell me I can't go to the break room for my break? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, all right, well, you need me to finish out the week, or do you want me to just be done now? Because I'm not gonna work here anymore.
That's great. That's a lot of that going on right now. People just being like fed up. Like, I don't think they are quite realize. In my opinion, it's because like inflation is now getting so bad enough that people are realizing they don't make any fucking money, and it's
Yeah.
like, why am I here anyway?
Yeah.
Like, I was just watching this this YouTube video about. It's pretty good. I subscribed to the channel. It's called like China Insights or something like that,
Okay.
and it was basically kind of following up on that lie flat movement. Do you remember they were talking about that on No Agenda a million years
That
ago?
rings a bell, but I'm
It's
not
like basically just young people being like, no matter how hard I work, I can't. I'm never gonna be able to own a house or
Oh,
whatever. So like,
yeah. I
fuck
know what
it.
you're talking about. Just lay down and die.
Exactly. Well,
What
like
is that?
it's moved on to exactly what you're saying. Like now it's called the "Let It Rot" movement, where they're like, "Fucking
Oh
let
my
it
God.
rot."
It's one of my favorite like meme series is this dude that does Obvious Plant,
Oh
just
yeah,
like
yeah.
those like toys that are like fake toys that he just puts places, you know? And one of my favorites is like Give Up, and it's this dude laying down and he's got like all this moss like glued to him, you know? It's like an action figure, but a guy's got moss. And
That's
just like
awesome.
lie down in the woods and let the moss overtake you. That's the essence of that movement right there.
That's
Like I just think of that every
seriously.
time.
Like I showed it to a friend. And I'm like, we don't have like the words for it the way they do. Like, but that energy is here, man.
Yeah.
Like the Wendy's, like just everyone quit. See you later.
Yeah.
Like, dude, it's not good. There,
I
people
was
are realizing they're
like
getting the shit end of the stick.
I was always willing, you know, to do good work, and
Mm-hmm.
like I was motivated, and I would always learn like all the different jobs, even stuff that wasn't mine, so that I could
Right.
fill in if I needed to, or I could do something quickly, or like get another department to help me if I was in a bind, or if they mess my shit up, then I could like help them help me fix it all. And you know, before like the customer finds out, or before like shit hits the fan and everything gets worse, you know, like
Right.
that was always like my MO in jobs and stuff. But some people come at you with some nonsense, and I've always viewed employment as a two-way street. Like this isn't
Yeah.
you're not buying me for 7.50 an hour or whatever it is, you know?
Right.
Like I am selling you my time for this pre-negotiated price, and if I don't like the deal, I also can walk. Like
Right.
Missouri is an at-will employment state, you know? So it's like I don't have to have a reason to just get out the door. Like
Yeah.
they they tried to make me wear this hairnet at the cookie shop. And it just was like in my county in the food regs, the bandana I'd been wearing was totally fine. And
Mm.
I'd been wearing it and taking great care of my hair. And they hired this new chick who kept getting hairs in the cookies. And so because of her, again, this is in the fucking theme, right? Like, so
Yeah.
because of her actions, now I have to change what I'm doing. I have to wear this dumbass hairnet. I'm like, dude, I've been working here for almost a year, wearing the bandana. I've never got a single hair complaint. I've made like hundreds of thousands of cookies. And you're gonna tell me, I'm like, I'm not doing it. I'm not wearing it. I'm gonna
Yeah.
follow county health code and wear the bandana. A guy got in my face about it, like this former wrestler dude, you know, like gets in my face about it and like pull and talk about rank and shit. And I'm like, rank this, make the fucking dough yourself, man. And I walked out the back door and never worked there again. It's like, I don't give a shit like what power you think you have over me, man. Like I was born and you were
Yeah.
born, so we're two people.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not a good energy to be around for sure.
No way, dude.
I've gotten fairly lucky. I've only had a couple bosses where I'm like, this fucking sucks. No way.
Yeah.
Like, for the most part, people are all right. Sometimes they ask a little too much of you. Like,
Yeah.
that's annoying. But
I
for the
try to
most
be
part,
I try to be realistic about like expectations and stuff like that and what I
yeah.
can and can't do, but yeah.
Yeah. There's some freaks out there though, for
I
sure.
Had some weird and wild jobs, man. I've done all kinds of shit.
Yeah, you reminded me. I also worked at a grocery store, and then there were these maintenance guys from the insurance company next door that always come in, that like goofing around and making jokes and stuff.
Yeah.
And they kept like, "Come work for us, come work for us." So I was like, "All right, I'll apply." And he's like, "You're gonna make way more money." So I applied, and I ended up. I always tell people this is my favorite job. I was just a janitor basically at an
Nice.
insurance company, but it was at night, and everybody, all the people would leave, and it was just me like picking up garbage and cleaning, and it was almost like zen, like where I just have
Totally.
my headphones in and like listen to a podcast and clean, and
Yeah.
it ended up being like not a terrible job, even though on paper, it's supposedly demeaning or whatever,
Yeah, I hate that societal stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I wish I would have learned a trade and gone to tech school or something, you know? Like,
Yeah, my little brother's doing it right now, and I'm so glad, man. I'm so glad he's going to college, but he's like trying to become an electrician
yeah,
basically. And I'm like, good for you, man,
totally.
because who
Yeah, that's
knows
the
what the
way,
deal's
man.
gonna be.
To have a marketable skill, because none of these liberal arts majors have a marketable skill, you know? They just have a degree that says they did the thing. That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. And they're supposedly smart. Like
Right. I mean, that's the thing too,
that's
you know?
so
Like,
annoying. Yeah.
I can show you some test scores in high school. It'll be like, "Oh, wow, cool." But
Yeah.
what does it mean? Like, it never meant anything to me,
No,
even like at the time when I got them, you know?
I know. Yeah,
It
super
always
weird.
meant it always meant stuff to like other people, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, what does it even do for me though? Like, I've
Yeah.
been filled in bubbles on a fucking Scantron. Like,
Oh God, the Scantron.
it means nothing to me.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. Like all these sorting mechanisms we all have to participate in.
Yeah.
It's not ideal. Well, that's interesting. We have a kind of a similar experience, I think. Did you stick around Missouri because you like it?
Yeah, actually, the more I traveled a lot.
Yeah.
When I was in college, I was the vice president and then eventually president of the chapter of Normal at Mizzou, MU
Oh, cool.
Normal. So I went around like lobbying for drug law reform, and I always went to the national conferences and stuff. Like the school would budget us to like fly out there for on their dime and stuff like that, like the
Nice.
organization. So all of that stuff was pretty cool. And like I kind of, I always wanted to get the hell out of Kansas City, when I
Mm-hmm.
graduated. And then the
Mm-hmm.
more places that I traveled to, the more I was like, Kansas City is actually pretty cool as far
Yeah.
as cities go, like, and I saw New York City a number of times. One of my best friends from college lived out in Massachusetts, and then my wife's also from there. So saw Boston, New York City with them a lot. And
Mm.
then on the West Coast, we went to the Cannabis Cup, the Medical Cannabis Cup in 20, I want to say 15
Oh,
was
cool.
the was in oh man, now I'm getting all my California cities messed up. It's
It's all good.
it's like a little east of LA. Um I
I
keep
don't
wanting to say
know, but
Cupertino, but that's like the Bay Area where
oh
Apple
yeah.
is. I worked for Apple for a little bit and was
Oh,
trained
cool.
out there. Um but yeah, like the California cities, I wasn't really woo-wooed about.
Yeah.
Portland. Portland was like all right the first time I went, like way back in '09, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And even then, people on the we were
Mm-hmm.
like taking the tram into the city, and people were like, "Oh, you think Portland's pretty cool, huh? Well, don't tell your friends, you know?" They're like, don't move out here. We're full. Fuck you."
Oh my God. Yeah, I had a similar experience of just one. I'm from upstate New York, and it's like all dairy farms and
hmm
a lot of land, and at the time you don't appreciate that shit when you're a kid. You're just bored.
Yep.
But man, now I've been living in New York City for I think like 6 years now. All I want is fresh air and trees. Like it's
No
all
doubt.
I'm like starving for it.
Yep.
It's crazy how you don't appreciate that stuff when you're little, but then when you get away
Yeah.
from it, you're like, no, it was pretty sick to just run outside and do whatever the fuck you wanted for eight
Yeah,
hours
man.
straight.
Run through a creek and all that kind of shit.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. Bring your GI Joes to like dug up root system of a tree and make it a fort.
Yeah,
Just
man. You
chill
never
out in
know.
the nature.
Never know how good you have it
That's right.
until you
This
get
is
outside of it and get
this
another
is true.
perspective.
This is true. Now I'm like paying $20 for a cup of coffee surrounded by
Oh my
concrete.
God.
It's like Jesus. It's
Yeah.
only getting crazier by the day too.
New York is wild, man.
It
Every time
is.
I've been there, I've always been like, I don't know how you'd live here, man. It's like that concrete jungle thing. It's real.
Yeah.
Like people call it the concrete jungle and
Yeah.
city that never sleeps and all that. Like it's
Yeah.
true, man. When you lie down in your head, and that's the thing. I think that over time you probably get somewhat used to some aspects of it, but
Mm-hmm.
like I only I only slept in New York City like 2 or 3 times. I've been there probably
Yeah.
a,
It's
a
pretty
dozen or
wild
so.
trying to sleep when you first get here.
It's like you fall asleep and you're still aware that like everybody's up still.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
Yep.
10 million people on that island and like four of them are still wandering around, you know? Like
Yep.
4
You're
million of
trying
them
to
are
sleep and
still,
there's a fist fight downstairs.
yeah.
Yeah, that kind of energy.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, yeah. I've lived in some sketchy parts of Brooklyn for sure. I remember one time I was just sitting in my bedroom. All of a sudden, I see this guy like frantically running, like it's kind of like scary energy. And they barged. He just ran into a apartment building, and then like six cop cars rolled up, and they all get out, guns drawn, everything, looking around, and I'm like, oh my god, I have to tell him, and I like yelled down, like he ran into that apartment building. He clearly didn't live there. Clearly
Yeah.
did something. I don't know what. If they're pulling their guns, it's got to be something. Although who knows these days?
Yeah, I don't know,
But
man.
yeah, exactly. Might have
You
got an
never
innocent
know.
man killed.
Probably bad, probably
Yeah.
who knows?
Yeah, this is true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have that thought back then, but yeah, you don't see that in upstate New York every day. I'll say that. It's like, yeah, we're in a pretty chill, quiet neighborhood now, which is nice.
That's good.
But and there is a lot of cool stuff about the city and blah blah
Yeah.
blah, and of course blah blah blah. But there's a lot of shitty stuff too that New Yorkers like to pretend doesn't suck until after they leave, and then they're like,
Sure.
"Oh yeah, that kind of did suck." That element, those 10 elements, like,
Sure.
yeah. Well, that's interesting. That's interesting. So you've been around, you like where you're at. That's good. So tell me, when did you first hear about Bitcoin?
Wow. I think the first time that I heard about Bitcoin was oh man, I want to say that my roommate was telling me about that um in the very early days,
Yeah.
like 2009 or 10.
Yep.
And I, didn't even know what it meant or anything about it. I
Mm-hmm.
just heard it referenced and talked about. Um, and then I think Silk Road was sort of like what I heard about,
That makes
like you can
sense.
buy drugs on the internet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Which there was some other site like when we were freshmen in college, there's some sites like that where you could get like a lot of different weird research chemicals and stuff.
Oh
And there
wow.
was just like PayPal, like they just mail it to your mailbox. Like my roommate did that to his student mailbox a few different times. And I was like, well,
That's
all right, man, I'm
hilarious.
glad it's all your shit, like your name and all that. But that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but those didn't last very long.
No.
And then Silk Road itself didn't even last really that long.
No. Yeah. It
Um,
it was kind of here and gone pretty quick.
it just
Yeah.
is like, the I think the anonymous aspects of like the claim that you were anonymous was kind
Mm,
of a little overblown, which makes
right.
sense for a public ledger, and
Totally. Yeah,
um,
it takes some work to kind of figure out who's who, but it is definitely possible.
yeah, with
People
enough
need to know
determination and
that.
resources, like it can be done, and
Yeah. I
it's
feel
hardly
like
to beat.
probably
The,
mining, I think, is the only way to like get a coin that no one knows is yours, I believe. But like outside of that, if you're buying or possibly even like trading with people, there's ways, unfortunately, for.
yeah, there's ways to trace it back, and then
Hmm.
it's so funny because everyone argues on this about like, oh, you can wash them and coin join them, or you can just buy non KYC from the beginning. But
Mm-hmm.
it's like the chain analysis companies have ways to kind of have it's not like they can trace you back to this exact thing, but they can have a confidence score. And then the
Right.
longer they're watching, that's kind of the whole trick is like they're just like, all right, well, we have a confidence score and we've narrowed it down to a certain number of UXTOs, so we're just going to keep watching them.
Right.
And then like, oh, here's another hint that ups our confidence score and narrows our search. Oh, here's another hint.
Right.
So it's just like a matter of they pick a moment in time, they seize upon, this kind of area, and they're like, all right, well, we're watching this, and then they can just narrow like it. The search doesn't get wider,
Right.
search only goes narrower. So,
Right.
you know, to think you're
Yeah.
invincible when it comes to privacy in Bitcoin, I think is a fool's gambit.
Yeah, for sure. I think what's his name? Oh God, he is like a whistleblower guy. He's now in Russia. I can't think of his name.
Oh, Snowden.
Yeah, Snowden's talks about this a lot about how he wishes core devs were more focused on the privacy aspects.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that stuff's getting better all the time, but I don't know if you can ever really count on a silver bullet of privacy.
yeah, I
And
I would say I don't really talk about when I'm trying to like sell people on it. I don't even mention the privacy aspect just because I mean it's true-ish, but like I
yeah,
don't want someone to think they can, I don't know, fucking pay for a prostitute in Bitcoin or something.
right.
You know what I mean? And like I don't know. It's like yeah, that's
Monero,
something.
bro. Monero solves it all,
Yeah.
bro.
I don't know if that's the answer, but
That's
God,
what I keep getting told by people.
I know it comes up constant. That's the one, like the Monero Bros
Mm-hmm.
come out all the
Monero,
time
bro.
on Twitter.
That's so
Monero,
funny.
bro. Yeah, I guess what I heard about it pretty early on as well. Probably also Silk Road times, I would say. Did you did you buy early on, or did you like what I tell people is I thought about it and then saw what you had to do and I was like, "Oh, I'm too lazy for that."
Something that's like haunted me for ever since, really, is
Mm.
the first time I ever interacted with Bitcoin was through faucets, and I just don't really
Oh,
remember when that started. Like, I
interesting.
know my roommate told me about some stuff, and I know that I played with some faucets early on before I ever bought.
Explain that cuz I don't
And
think people know faucets.
sure. So back in the day, and these still exist, by the way, but they suck really bad nowadays.
Mm.
Back in the day, there were plenty of what were called faucets, which were just websites where you could go to and you would solve a CAPTCHA and you would watch an ad and then you would paste in a Bitcoin address and then they would send you a amount of Bitcoin.
That's
And
amazing.
I mean, in the early days, they would send you like a Bitcoin.
That's insane.
Like there were faucets that would send you a Bitcoin.
Dude,
And it was like, that was pennies for watching an ad back then.
mhm. Mhm.
Like it wasn't like some unsustainable or crazy business practice. And that's
Right.
another thing that people like kind of get fucked up in the head about with time and price points and all this. Like Bitcoin pizza guy,
Right.
oh, he spent 10,000 Bitcoin. Like they're trying to say he spent like millions of dollars on a pizza, and it's not
Right.
how it went down.
No,
Like
no, yeah.
he spent $40 on two pizzas, which was above the market price, but he wanted to do something novel.
Right.
And that's what actually happened.
Yeah.
And like you can if to your dad about if he held on, if he held on, like
Yeah.
I can guarantee you that those 10,000 Bitcoins or whatever it was were not his only Bitcoins. Like I guarantee you he didn't dump his entire nut
Yeah.
on two pizzas. But I also guarantee you probably sold at like 25 or $50 or something. Like,
Totally. Because
he
how could
probably
you
was like,
not?
oh, it's so fucking much money. And he probably
Yeah,
sold a bunch of it,
of
and he's
course.
probably all right. Like, everyone's like rolling it, like, "Oh, do you like lose sleep at night?" I saw fucking Anderson Cooper ask the guy, "Yeah, oh, does that make it hard to sleep?" It's like, dude, like,
Oh,
have some concept of like the
yeah.
value and the time and like,
God. Is it hard for you, Anderson, to sleep at night? Lying
yeah,
for the establishment every day?
right. Being a
Piece
CIA
of
shill.
shit. Yeah, he's being a
Fucking,
shill for
oh
scumbags.
god.
God, yeah, that's a
That's
different
probably the
story.
projection. He's probably
Yeah,
like, I can't sleep at
honestly.
night. I bet this
Yeah.
guy really has problems. And the guy's
That's
kind of like, no, I'm like a regular dude. He's like,
yeah.
he probably is just like, he probably has like, fuck you, go off and die money, but he just doesn't tell anybody and nobody realizes that. That's the perfect place to be. Like some
100%.
multi-millionaire, but you're like the guy that lost it all on two pizzas. Yeah. And you're like,
Yeah,
oh,
wink
yeah,
wink.
that sucks, man. I threw my whole life away on two pizzas. Can't believe it.
Yeah, it is weird to me when people nowadays are like posting like tweets like I did it, I got a full coin. I'm like,
I
don't
know. I'm
tell
like,
people. Yeah, don't do
yeah,
that.
like, man,
I
like I'm happy for you, man, but like
yeah. Mm-mm.
I know you're out. Like I know the fucking plebs are growing. I see the analysis posted of how many like wallets have a full coin in them now, and that's like
Yeah.
going up and up and up. Like
It's
we
awesome.
get it. You're accumulating, man, but like, yeah,
Yeah.
don't brag about how much Bitcoin you have. It's
Yeah,
just
don't brag just cuz
it's
it's gross,
foolish.
but also it's a bad
It's
idea,
not
man. It's to make
safe,
yourself a
man.
target.
Yeah, it's not safe.
Yeah, no good, no good. Man, that's funny.
People just want approval, though, man. They want to be like, tell me I'm good. Tell me I'm
Yeah.
good. I'm a real Bitcoin bro
Yeah.
now, man.
Yeah. Gotta
I'm
get
such a
those
coiny
likes.
boy. Hey, Bitcoin Twitter, I'm very coiny boy. Look at my
Yeah.
laser eyes.
Oh my god. Yeah. There's that. There is
Yeah.
that.
Laser eyes are cool as fuck looking. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie. But my Abby has been the same on Twitter and then on Nas too now since like inception. So, like I think I had one other Twitter uh icon or whatever, but when I took that picture, it's been my Abby ever since. Like no
Yeah.
exceptions, and I'm not really fixing to change it. And you can't see my eyes because I'm facing away from the camera, but I've had laser eyes the whole time
They're spiritual
since the
laser
beginning. Yeah,
eyes.
before it was like a big fad.
Yeah, yeah. That's hilarious. Yeah, a lot of those early guys, I mean, who could have known, you know, the price would have gone up so much.
Right.
I mean, that's what to me makes Bitcoin so exciting and interesting. Just the fact that it's like against all odds and how improbable it is that it's like real just on its face. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like no one knew or tried or did anything. Like no one's advertising it. You know what I mean? There's no like
Yeah.
there's no shitcoin PR department for Bitcoin beyond people just wanting to talk about it.
Right.
Like there's no you know the there's no one going on CNBC specifically to pump Bitcoin for the Bitcoin
Yeah.
Corporation. It's
And there's
just
people that try, but it's like Bitcoin has its own plans, and
totally.
it obeys different laws. It
I
doesn't obey
know.
like the law of one man or a few men.
Yeah, it's
It obeys
pretty.
it obeys the laws of physics.
Yeah. Like even Sailor. I mean, you can't get a better like pitchman than Sailor, and it's
Yeah.
like it's not like when he opens his mouth it jumps up 5 grand. It does
Right.
what it's just still doing what it's doing. It's
Yep.
pretty interesting. So you heard about it pretty early on.
Yeah.
Um and to the point early on enough where you were basically getting free Bitcoin back in the day,
Yeah.
which is
I
fucking
was
awesome.
I was dabbling in faucets, and then like I was doing only pretty much exclusively like DJ gambling for my birthday or somewhere close to there in 20, God, I want to say 15 again.
Yeah.
It was whenever like that spring it went down, it crashed
Yeah.
from like an all-time high of 1500 or something like that. And then
Yeah.
I like crashed way down to I was like watching it because it was like hovering and going down toward 420, and I was like, yeah. I'm gonna buy when it goes below 420, and I think I hit it at like 390. I put $50 in or something.
Right.
It's like, all right, here we go. Cool. I'm like, I got some Bitcoin, and I played poker with it, and
Are there
um,
still Bitcoin like gambling sites?
yeah, you
That's
can do
kind of
like
badass.
Seals with Clubs is
Oh,
one that
interesting.
I still play. It's like a ghost town nowadays, but they accept Bitcoin in that Bcash nonsense that
Oh, yeah,
never worked.
yeah. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, there was this the thing I liked early on. It didn't really last long, and I don't know if it ended up being a rug pull or what exactly. Like a lot of the stuff in the early days, there's just like it's not documented or whatever, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like people moved on and then the threads never got archived and
Right.
whatever. It's just like lost to time. Like if you remember it, you remember it. And if you weren't there, you can't fucking find anything about it anymore. But there was this thing, Dogecade. And in
Doge.
fact, it was like one of the first 5 episodes I did of Bowl After Bowl was like with the developer behind Dogecade. Uh I'm pretty sure Insomniac was his name.
Hmm.
And it was just this little arcade where you could with Dogecoin play battleships, like they
Oh
had this
my
battleships
god.
game and they had like a rock paper scissors and some other just dumb shit, you know, but you could
Right.
just play games of chance against other people and win or lose your Doge. So I liked that a lot and I used to do that all the time. And all the Doge I got there was from faucets. You know, I never paid U.S. dollars for Doge at all. I never
Oh,
sold
word.
Bitcoin for Doge. I just got it out of faucets, and it was funny because this has always been like a weird niche, like cyclical interest for me.
Mm.
Like I got into it, like that was the biggest I got into it until maybe a year and a half ago when I like
Mm.
really woke back up and podcasting 2.0 started.
Yeah.
But like that little time for a while, I was like doing that, and then I just kind of got bored and like forgot about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Elon was pumping Doge and it was like zooming up,
Mm.
and I was like, what in the fuck, Dogecoin? Really? Like it's worth like some kind of actual whole number of cents? Like what? And I looked it up and I pulled my wallet history up, and like there was the faucet payouts from years before, and they paid like 2,800 Doge per like drip, you know? So I had like 3 faucets in there for like, you know, 5,000 Doge or something. And I'm
Oh
like,
wow.
so I was like, it's 58 cents. Fuck this shit. Like it's gone. It's Bitcoin now. I turned into Bitcoin
Yeah.
and, you know, I gave some to podcasters and, you know,
That's the best possible outcome with an altcoin.
yeah. And I like, even this last round that I first, like, that's the danger for me. Like I remember I have Bitcoin and then I'm like, oh yeah, it's gone up. And I'll like spend some of it, you know, and I'll be like I'll get like, oh yeah, get some pot seeds or something. Or I'll be like, oh yeah, let's put 10 million sats on Trump to win the election in 2020. That didn't go well. That kind of shit, you know. I'm just like, well, I could degen gamble with it, make more. Like, no,
That's
no, that never
awesome.
has worked out for me traditionally. uh,
I like that you're creating a circular economy, dude. Most
right? Yeah, yeah.
you're the first person I've talked to who's like, yeah, I mess around, I spend, I do. I like this. That's interesting.
Well, that's like another thing about it. Like, um, it was after that election cycle, and then podcasting 2.0 rolled out, and I started listening to all of them, made my show like value enabled,
Mm,
and then when I set up a node, I had to do enough research and I had to do enough learning just to get the node working. I
right,
had to read enough shit that I really had to grow up,
right.
and I had to think about stuff like in more of a meta way, in a more of
Mm,
like a big picture way,
mm-hmm.
and just say, wow, like what's the future? You know, the future isn't gambling every 4 years on a presidential cycle or like playing poker and like you know, losing your ass in a night. Because I also I took it to some fucking slot. Like not all of my Doge I sold at the peak. Like a little more than half my nut I like lost in a casino after tripling it.
Oh man.
I took my half my nut when I found out that I was like, holy shit. Like I don't have this much money in my bank account, but I have this much money on fake internet money. So I was like, I took it to a casino. I tripled like this fucking I was like, I'll just put half my nut in, whatever. Tripled it up. Then I'm like talking shit on these chats, like, yeah, Doge is up. I just tripled my nut. And then just fucking like over 3 more hands after bragging about it, just lose everything.
Oh no.
And then I'm just like you're just forced to like rethink all your shit and just be like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Like, this isn't like you can treat it like it's not money, it's not real, or you can treat it like it is
Yeah.
and be responsible and grow the shit, you know? Like there's a
Yeah.
future. There's clearly a future here.
Do you enjoy
And
gambling in general? Like, like, do you go to casinos?
I like it, but I
Mm,
don't like allow myself to super indulge.
gotcha.
I've been to casinos 3 times ever.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say, I think that's right. Maybe just two, either two or three. Actually, only might have been two. First time I ever went to a casino was my wife's birthday, and we were feeling fancy, and we were still in Columbia, so we went to Boonville as like the closest casino, and they have I look up pre-Boonville, and we went in there. We had bought like we went to the boot store, and I got like this fancy hat and some new boots, and then we went to the casino, and we were just like, I was like, like $400 or whatever. Like, you always pick a number that you're just willing to set on fire.
Totally.
And then you fuck around at the casino. And so she played some slots. Everybody in there is like spending their like pension check that
Oh
came.
man.
Like we were the youngest people by 40 years.
Oh wow.
Most people were like in their 70s or older, but
Jesus.
there might have been like some younger 60s in there, maybe. It was like, I was like, there was already kind of this air of sadness,
Yeah.
in the casino. And I was just like, wow, that's the first time I've ever been to one. And there was a few different tables we played around at. One was a blackjack table where they have blackjack plus like three card poker. So like you're playing 21, but then you also have a poker hand going.
Whoa.
So you're guaranteed to lose like at least one of the games that you're playing, essentially, is how that works. Which I kind of found after playing like 3 or 4 times. I was like, oh, okay, I get it. So like if you're trying to win 21, you fucking your poker hand and
uh
vice versa.
Very
It's just
clever
kind of,
house.
yeah, exactly. It's like one of those things. I played a couple other. I like watched craps, but I was like, nah, I can't really get behind this. Roulette, same thing. I kind of watched the table, but I never put chips down because I'm like, what's the strategy there?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure there is one. I'm sure like that's the thing. Like, uh, there's some people like Norm Macdonald's one of the guys I respect the most, who's just
I
like
love
the
Norm.
degen gambler guy.
Totally.
Um,
He's
who
hilarious.
who could
Was.
probably tell you like
R.I.P.
I got a system for the
Yeah,
roulette. There's a
yeah.
system, and it's like, all right, cool. Like I don't want to know that, because then I'm gonna be down even more. But there was this one game that I could actually jive. It was the first game I played, and then I played a few others, and I came back to this table. Uh, it was like three draw poker or something like that. Um, just this typical 5 card poker.
Hmm.
So I could understand the rules at least. And
Right.
the way it works was there was 4 different betting cycles, and there was like casinos fuck you in so many ways, and here's one of them. One of them is the $5 minimum bet, right? So the $5 minimum bet happens at the ante plus every hand or every round, excuse me.
Uh,
So every round you play. So in order to play, you have to put a $5 bet at the ante, which is actually what your multiplier is. That's what you're winning off of. Plus, you have to set $5 down on the table in front of you to get your initial 5 cards. So really at the end of it, it's a $20 minimum, but the minimum's 5.
huh.
And you're only actually multiplied on this chip up here, this 5. So I sit back down at this table, I play a few hands. They give you 5 at the beginning. You can ante $5 more. You can ante the minimum again to draw up to 3 cards for round 2. And then you can ante one more time to draw up to 1 card. And there were jokers in the deck, which weren't fully wild, but what they could do is they could help you complete a flush or a straight, or they could be an ace. So they were kind of like almost wild. Jokers were almost wild. But like if you had 2 queens and a joker, you didn't have 3 of a kind.
Mm.
If that makes sense.
Gotcha.
So I played a couple more hands. I'm like ready to go. My wife, Lorian, she was like spending the rest of the chips that she had on this slot machine. And like when she was run out of slots, we were just going to go. And so I put another $10 down. I get my 5 cards. I pick them up. It's 2 aces and a joker. So I've got 3 of a kind right off the bat. I'm like in good shape. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm going to win some money on this one no matter what. Like $50 is coming my way or whatever it was. Like, or I guess it would have been 20 or something like that. But you get your money back plus the 3-1 on the $5 chip or something like that.
Mm.
So I was like, all right, this is great. Uh, I slid the lady 2 cards. I andied in, slid the lady 2 cards, and I was like, just give me 2 more aces and we can get the fuck out of here, just kind of being jovial. She's like, okay. Takes my cards that I discarded, throws me 2 new ones. I look at them. It's a joker and an ace.
Oh shit.
So I'm sitting there with 5 aces. It's the highest hand you can have at this game. Pays 500 to 1. I'm like, thank you. I just said thank you, and I put my cards down and I put another chip down. So you got to ante for that third round, but I didn't give her a card. And she was like, "No, you sure you're not gonna draw one more? You get one more draw." I'm like, "No, I'm sure." She was like, "Let me see." And so like I'm like, "All right." Like I show her, and then she's like, "Put those down. Put those down." I was like, "All right, you're the one that fucking said show me. Like I'll put them down. Like just deal this shit out and count my chips out, man. Like I'm a big fat winner here." And so yeah, it was like a $5 bet got me $2,500 at the casino, and that was the first time I'd ever been. And they got to count your chips out. They got to come and make you be like an aisle member
Oh
and get a
god.
membership card. They take
Yeah,
taxes out of it beforehand, all of that kind of shit. Like they're bringing me like a 1041 or whatever the fuck it is, like to
Jesus
sign.
Christ.
It was epic. And I'm just sitting there. They're like, "You want to play anymore?" And I'm like, "Nah, fucking way, man. I
Yeah,
know how you
for
guys
real.
are. Like, I'm done." And they took forever counting my chips out, like just real slowly. And they got to count. They got to have a guy come and like verify the deck and all this shit. Um,
Jeez.
and so then they
Just
like
looking
asked
for
me.
any reason to take it back.
They asked me 2 more times, and finally I was like, "Fine, I'll play a couple fucking hands while these chips are getting counted out." I ended up winning like 60 more bucks playing, just like a little bit, but just like I was like, all right, like while I'm hot, if you still want me, man, like, but that was a great day. And then I got invited to a poke or a blackjack tournament after that at the same casino.
Hmm.
And we just went because there was a free buffet with it. So we got the free buffet, and the poker tournament was set up in a way that you pretty much just had to go balls to the wall aggressive because it was like 100 guys and like the top chip count advanced to the next round. So you pretty much just
Uh,
had to be like splitting and doubling down on everything in order to have a chance to kind of, you know,
right.
advance. It was like extra reckless strategy was the only ones that were winning. So just didn't really work out for me. But which was fine. It didn't cost us a dime to go back the second time. We ate some fucking shrimp off of the thing and got out of there. And then
Nice.
yeah, I don't really go to casinos, man, because I know that I'm bad for it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, your eyes lit up. I got a
I could
buddy you remind me of.
yeah. I know I could do it, man. That's the problem. And that's why at first when I found like these cryptocurrencies that I was
Hmm.
like, "Oh, well this is like not really in my bank account, so I can justify like losing everything because it's not really real to me. Like it's
Yeah,
still kind of like It
totally. I
never
can
was real
flip
to
it
me.
and double it and yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like send it from here to here. Like look at it
Yeah.
go. I can click on this button and I get more for free anyway. So like it was just a different mindset for me.
Yeah. So so podcasting 2.0 comes out.
Yeah.
You set up your own node, you do your research, and what made it click for you? What made you decide that this is real, this is money, this isn't something to be fucking around with?
I suppose it's hard, it's not really one thing.
Mm-hmm.
It was a number of things, but a lot of it was just the different signals that I was getting and different people that I heard kind of talk about it and further my understanding a little bit more about it. When Adam went on Orange Pill with Max Kaiser,
Yeah,
that kind of opened my world up to like the maximalists and all of those kind of
totally.
arguments.
I'm a big
And I
Orange Pill fan.
like Max Kaiser to me, he's just like I just could jive with that. And I
Yeah.
totally on the flip side, I can understand why everybody who hates him does or like thinks
Yeah.
he's a clown or doesn't take him seriously. But I can respect that kind of stuff. Like I've got a lot of that about me
Mm,
where I don't like my aim is not to be taken seriously or like held up as some kind of fucking guru
mm,
dude. You know what I mean? Like
mm-hmm.
that's not who I am. It's not what I need in my life either. Like I like to, I don't know, like it's cool to, it's all right to play the fool, you know, it's totally fine. Like I'll
Yeah,
be the
yeah,
idiot before I'll be like the guy that knows everything about anything. Like,
totally.
and I think that that's not really the same thing that Max does. Max
Mm,
does claim to be like the guy that knows everything about anything,
mm-hmm.
but he does it while like wearing sunglasses this big like Elton John and like this big orange bow tie or something. You know, like he
Totally,
does it while being an absolute over the top like clown in a lot of ways. Like, and I mean clown in the technical sense of like
totally.
what clowning is.
Right.
So um I kind of can like I can understand and appreciate that sort of art and that sort of, you know, nuance
Yeah,
and the message behind like what he's actually saying, which
totally.
was the silver bullet stuff, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
the this just the sort of like huge ball confidence behind what he's saying. Like nobody else is putting their nuts right on the table like guys like that are.
Right.
Um, and the some have, you know, like Do Kwon did that, but it wasn't very fucking sustainable. You know, Do Kwon did that for like 5 6 months.
Oh
You know,
man.
Do Kwon wasn't out there flexing balls for like 5 6 years, being like, you know, God himself can't strike me down, that kind of shit. You know, like
Yeah. Do you think that piece of
most,
shit's going to jail?
I don't know, maybe on a long enough timeline, or maybe he pays the right people.
Jeez, what a scumbag.
Yeah, I mean that's like a lot of these guys. Like that's what let's see the contrast it. You know, the
Mm.
maxis are all like blah, 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 blah. Like anybody else in the crypto space that does that, like just gets knocked down so quickly. Like where the
Right.
fuck do they even go? Where did they
Yeah.
go?
Well, it's like they're talking. They're basically all that shit's like just another app, you know, like on the fucking
Sure.
app store. Like that's all it is. It's like
Yeah.
on Amazon web servers, and you know, you're the flavor of the month,
Mm-hmm.
and you peak, and then you never have a second all time high against Bitcoin ever again. Like,
Right.
there's only one that's done it. I just listening to the Breed Love podcast today. There's only one that's done it, and it's Dogecoin.
Doge. Yeah. Yeah, because they had a silly second pump, you know,
Yeah,
and that was the
Elon.
time. Like it was so loud and such a hellish pump that I was like, dude, I gotta sell the fucking coin.
Yeah, good for
And then
you.
there everyone was like, "Ooh, it's on Coinbase. Ooh, it's on," and that was like the death knell, you
Yeah,
know. That was like the
Jesus.
once it was on Coinbase, it never hit like it like listed on Coinbase at 24 cents, you know. And I think it's like 6 today,
Oh my god.
6 cents, something like that. And it'll never be back, you know, like it'll never be back.
Yeah, it feels like the party's over for sure. Yeah, you
But
know,
Shiba, if Shiba goes to a penny, bro,
I feel so bad because all the fucking like corner store guys here have
yeah,
like Shiba coin like posters and shit, and
yeah.
I want to be like, dude, just buy Bitcoin, man, please, for your family.
Yeah,
Oh man, I
it's rough. You know, everybody's got to go. That's what you know, I heard you earlier talking about like what I tell people now is this and that, and I was interested to like hear how much you really do of like evangelizing anymore because podcasting 2.0 first started,
mm,
I turned the note on, and then I just wanted all my podcasting friends to do it too. It was
yeah,
like, you guys, like this is the way, this is the future. Like,
totally.
come on,
Yeah,
do
I
it, turn it
just got
on.
mine set up a couple months
Like
ago.
get the flow going. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and then I had to start like overcoming objections,
Mm,
which wasn't something that I'm not able to do,
right.
but it's it's hard.
Yes.
It's hard emotionally because you have this investment in your friend, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have this investment also in the coin and in what you believe the future is going to be and like
Right.
how the protocol works and all this. And so they're all tangling with each other. And then you have this thing that you really can't actually explain. Like nobody can really actually explain it. There's some people that are like real fucking good, like Gigi that we had on the show a month ago. I think he's one of the better guys to like really actually talk deep concepts in simple terms.
I'll check
But
it out.
even still, like it's just this, it's so radically new and so
Yeah.
apart from anything we've had before that
It's extremely hard to explain.
until like we had to just boil it down to the simplest stuff and then just keep saying it. Like
Yeah.
one of our memes that we keep going with is get in the car and drive. That's what we suggested to people because a lot of the pushback was, well, I want to try Bitcoin, but I don't understand it enough. I feel like I don't understand it enough.
Right.
And you know what? I've been running a node for a year and a half. I feel like I still don't understand it enough.
Totally.
However, I've been running a node for a year and a half,
Yeah.
and number keeps going up, and I'm stacking sats. So like I told people like your car, you wouldn't wait until you know how to rebuild a transmission to get in your car and drive it to the
Ooh,
grocery store, right?
interesting.
Like and how are you going to learn about a car? Are you going to ask a mechanic to pop the hood and like point at stuff and explain it to you, or are you going to like flip through the owner's manual and just read it for cover to cover, or are you going to Google about cars and watch YouTube videos about cars? Like none of that actually teaches you how to take your car and drive to the grocery store. You got to just get in and do it, and
Yeah.
you're going to be clumsy at first probably, but hopefully you got somebody in the passenger seat who's done it before and who can like tell you what you're doing wrong when you do it and like keep you safe and get you to your destination. But then eventually you get more confident at driving, and turns out you like drive for 80 years and die peacefully never knowing how to rebuild the engine or like how a catalytic converter works.
Right. Yeah,
And it's okay,
that's a
like
good
it's
way to
fine.
explain it. The thing I got hit with just recently was it's bad for the environment.
Oh yeah,
And
there's a lot of that.
my go-to was, well, you probably heard that it uses a ton of energy, right? It uses more energy than a small country. And
Sure.
that's the one thing that everyone's heard. And I'm like, well, I love that this is true, that washer dryers use more energy than Bitcoin. And it's the only reason you're even thinking about energy
Yeah.
usage, because you never think about energy usage for anything else you use or do,
Mm-hmm.
because why would you?
Yeah, and we
You
could all jam a plunger into a 5-gallon bucket and hang our clothes on the back line, like we could
exactly.
do that for
Yeah.
it wouldn't be cost prohibitive for anybody to do that. It's far cheaper than a washer dryer, but
Yeah,
no one's
exactly.
doing that shit.
And once you drop that on them, you kind of make them realize, like, oh yeah, everything does use energy,
Hmm.
obviously. Like, people don't think about where the electricity coming out of the walls coming from. No one does.
No,
I
absolutely
didn't
not.
before, kind of. I mean, I did it to some extent, but not like, I wasn't worrying about where it was coming from, let's say.
Right. Yeah.
um
Well, you can tell just alone by like the big push of electric cars solve, I don't know, anything
yeah.
that nobody's really like thinking beyond
Totally.
just the car.
I know, it's
And
so
it's like
weird.
there's this big picture thing of like, all right, the energy still comes from somewhere, and the battery still comes from
Yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah.
And
Have you seen
what's
those mines? They're
yeah,
pretty fucked up looking.
yeah.
I love this. I saw this old clip. It's like 10 years old, so it's not quite as cool as it could be, but it was like, I can't remember it was like the something Leaf, when that came out, that whatever it was, the Honda, or I don't know. I don't remember
Oh
which one it
yeah.
was. But they were making this huge deal about it and being like, it's so amazing. We plug it in right here. And the one this one journalist who's like asking actual questions. He's like, "Well, where do you get your electricity? Where does it come from?" And the CEO of the company is like, "Oh, we get it from such and such company." And he's like, "No, no, no, but like, what's the fuel
Yeah.
source for that electricity?" And she's like, "Oh, I don't know." And then the CEO of that electric company happened to be there, and he asked him, and the punchline of the video goes, "Oh yeah, we're 95% coal." It's just
Nice.
like, you're burning coal to
Yeah.
power the electric car that
Going back
makes
to
you
the
think
steam
you're
engine,
not burning coal.
essentially.
I'll say again, sorry, I talked
It's
over you.
like they're going back to the steam engine essentially, only
Yeah,
like just by a trick of accounting.
totally. Like, that's what's so gross about the modern world, is I feels like it's all that. Like, it's
Well, it's like there's big innovations,
mm,
but then there are also these forced steps backwards
mm-hmm,
in the name of progress. And
mm-hmm.
that's what it always is when it's forced by some other like hidden agenda. It's not really progress. Like progress will happen, we just relax and all move forward together. Like nobody wants to pollute the entire world and kill it.
Totally.
Duh. We
Yeah.
can't live on a planet that we kill.
Yeah.
Like nobody is pro killing the
Yeah.
planet. Nobody.
Yeah.
Even the people who joke that they are joking.
Yeah.
Promise. But nobody thinks past that. They just get this emotional like talking point in their head, and then that's all there is. It's just
Mm-hmm.
like that over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody wants to take the time to like separate all these things out and the nuance of all of it and just kind of like try to come up with some solutions going forward. I
Totally.
mean, and the exceptions to that, a lot of them are in the Bitcoin space. It's kind of crazy, It's
Yeah.
wild how it intersects with so many other important decentralization topics like the food supply chains.
Yeah.
A lot of Bitcoiners are into homesteading and
Yep. The
sustainable
beef
beef.
initiative. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
And
is interesting that a lot of, and in a lot of ways, um, like a lot of those, what do you call them? Why can't I think of the word? Oh God. Oh, it's gonna drive me crazy. I don't know. There's like the political belief of like your sovereignty first. What is that?
like
Libertarian. There we go.
libertarians,
A
yeah,
lot
yeah.
of the libertarians, when you start listening to their arguments, you're like, oh, that's kind of like a leftist ideal. Like the
Yeah.
way you're talking is like
Yeah.
you're worried about other people and wanting other people to be like safe essentially.
Yeah.
And a Democrat, a typical, I don't know, New York City lib would never be caught dead
Well, that's the
anywhere
thing,
near those
man.
people, which is depressing because they could easily
liberal
get
used
along.
to liberal used to mean something incredibly different
I
than what it
know.
means today. It's wild. Like a classical liberal, like a Jeffersonian liberal,
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
liberal, liberty. Like
Yep.
that's what it was. It was freedom and freedom for everybody, not just freedom for the powerful. And
Yeah.
people try to pretend like this country was founded upon the opposite of that concept, but
Mm-hmm.
no. Like just because it started off on a different balance of where the power was, like this country was founded upon everybody being created equal and everyone
Yeah.
having an equal share in the thing of their future and their destiny.
Yeah.
And now you
Yeah.
want to like everyone wants to rewrite history and say, well, it was this, it was that. And the problem, and as we've seen in like many dystopian novels they had us read growing up to like kind of try and teach us this,
Mm-hmm.
is the problem with that revisionist history is it becomes effectively true if
Yeah.
enough people believe it and buy into it. Like
Dude, for
history
real.
can be rewritten
Yeah.
for a society
Yeah.
because it doesn't matter if everybody believes something, then it might as well be true. Like, what's the difference?
Yeah, that's what's so scary to me about like media narratives and stuff. Like you can make people have an emotional reaction to something if you get enough people to have a specific emotional reaction to a specific thing, it might as well be true, like you say. It's
Yep.
really freaky when you start looking at it like that.
Yeah,
Um,
it's terrifying, man.
yeah, and
And
it's
that's another kind of reason why decentralization I think will save us all, and
yeah,
why Bitcoin was designed so beautifully to survive like all these attacks is because
totally.
you decentralize everything so the power really is equalized. The
Mm-hmm.
power really is in the nodes.
Mm-hmm.
And then and in the miners in conjunction with the
Mm-hmm.
nodes. So there's like a separation. Sort of like our government was separated into three branches.
Yeah.
And then uh you incentivize everybody to do the right thing. You
Right.
say, all right, well, if everybody plays correctly, then everybody wins.
Wins. Yeah.
And then if one person tries to hijack it,
Mm-hmm.
if one person thinks they can take it over, they have to maintain that total dominance forever
Yeah.
in order for it to be like worth a shit, right?
Yeah. It's
Or
pretty
like
genius.
even the dreaded 51% attack that everyone always like theorizes about, like,
Mm-hmm.
and like that would take, at the current hash rate, like it would be impossible to pull off. The only thing that you would be able to do if you were successful is you would have to keep it going for eternity after that. You would have to maintain your 51% attack forever.
Mm-hmm.
And in for a reward, you would be able to essentially double spend, which means you would essentially be able to just bounce checks. It's not like
Right.
you still wouldn't be able to take anybody else's coin.
Right. That's interesting.
It's not
Yeah.
like you would just suck everything out for yourself, and like you
Yeah.
can't. You would essentially get to the part where you can write checks and then they bounce, but then you get them confirmed.
Right. Right.
So like, and the amount that you would have to waste in order to get to that point, or the attack that you'd have to mount, is so unachievable that it's kind of funny to like even kind of game theory it out.
Right.
And I think that everybody kind of in Bitcoin, once you explore these different vectors, once you explore like, all right, what really would it take? Like, what really is going on here? And then I can like look at it at any time. I can go to the mempool. I can pull up the Clark Moody dashboard, and I can look at like what the blocks are and what the transactions are, and the difficulty adjustment, all this shit. Like it's alive. It's this thing that's like
Yeah.
just churning away all the
Totally.
time. Doesn't give a fuck
Yeah, that's pretty
about all this
badass.
about all this craziness going around. Um,
Well, listen, I got to wrap up, unfortunately.
yeah, no worries,
We got to
man.
do another one. We got more to talk about, I think.
Sure. Time kind of
Um,
flew, man.
yeah, it did. It did. I still have some work to get done, unfortunately.
No worries, man. I know how that goes.
Yeah, but I'll have you on again and again soon. This was fun.
Yeah, thanks so much for I just heard your donation on No Agenda, and I was like, I'll reach out and see what's
Sweet.
up.
Yeah, that's
So cool,
awesome.
man.
That was my plan. I'm hoping I'm gonna do it again soon. Hopefully, get some more nights on here,
Nice. Cool.
and become one myself soon.
There you go, man. Hope to see you at the round table very soon. I'll
Yeah.
be excited.
Hell yeah. Do you have meetups around you?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
organized the Kansas City meetups actually. The next one's
Awesome.
going to be let me see what the calendar says. The 29th? No,
Sweet.
23rd. Saturday the 23rd is our next one.
Very cool. Very cool. Is there
So,
anything you want to shout out before we wrap up here?
um just head over to bullafterbull.com, and if you're a podcaster yourself, build a node.
Yeah, for
It's
real.
the way.
It is the way. All right, that wraps it up. If you got value out of this podcast, send us value in return by going to www.extremely.live/donate. All donations $10 and above are counted as a production credit, and you are credited live on air and on the podcast, and we read your note. And do me a favor, text our URL to a friend, www.extremely.live. That would be extremely helpful. All right. Have a good one.